So we were talking all about how the risk of cancer is increased when you are overweight. And we listed off what those cancers were. And there's a number of them. Now, there's no clear 100% definition of mechanism of action, but we're going to chat about some of the reasons why that might be.
Okay. Yeah, and I think this is really cool because you are such an expert when it comes to weight and metabolism and when it comes to weight loss. And I find with cancer, a lot of the foundational pieces are very similar. So for anyone that doesn't know me, I'm Dr. Lori Bouchard, and I help people live longer and stronger with cancer. And a huge part of that is looking at your metabolism, looking at how you balance sugars, looking at toxicity, looking at inflammation. There are so many pieces to the puzzle when we're looking at why does cancer develop in the body. So it's not always the same for every single person, which is the same foundations as far as naturopathic medicine in general. If someone has difficulty losing weight, it's not always looking at calories and you need to exercise more, not the things that we think are very outdated, really. So it's a lot more to it that we want to investigate. And this is what I'm really excited to talk about, because I think when it comes to the end goal of living healthier and stronger and less inflamed, a lot of the things that we both do with patients are very similar. So where should we start with that?
Well, you mentioned inflamed. So we know that there's the underlying inflammatory component in both overweight or resistant weight loss and cancer. So why don't we talk about a couple things? You share 3, I'll share 2 if you don't mention all of them. What are some things that people can do to reduce inflammation? Or what are some sources in terms of their diet and lifestyle that they might not be aware of?
Okay, so we all, as part of our immune system, we have this inflammatory pathway called NF-kappa B. So this basically helps, or this causes inflammation just to skyrocket. And so you think of like a siren going off and it's really loud in the body. We need to be aware of what is making that siren go so loud so we can hush it down. So everyone is so different in what causes this inflammatory process. One of them is toxicity. So smoking being an obvious one, even secondhand smoke, alcohol is another carcinogen that causes a lot of inflammation in the body. Some people genetically can deal with alcohol better than others, and that's same with toxicity across the board. Some people just genetically can chelate this out of their system, whereas some people just hold on to it. And for people who have difficulties losing weight, that toxicity is stored in fat cells. So it's almost like a protective mechanism. If you're finding you're having a really hard time losing weight, you have to look at that toxicity puzzle, because your body's kind of like holding on so it's not going into the bloodstream and really affecting you. So the other sources of toxicity is even like herbicides, glyphosates, pesticides, anything that's inflaming your system. You want to be aware of that. We do a lot of testing in the clinic too. I don't know if Breanne, you do testing for what chemicals that are what's in your system or what you're holding on to, but that's one way to know, other than just getting rid of the obvious things in your life, right? What else? So yeah, toxicity.
Let's give a summary. So we talked about 1, lowering environmental toxin exposure. So watch, it's nice out and people are spraying their grass, hopefully not with chemicals that can be harmful, especially if you're out there in bare feet or you're breathing it in. You need to really be mindful of that. Other toxins can come from plastics. So watch, especially don't microwave in plastics, watch with plastic water bottles, watch with plastics in general. Get toxins from your skincare. So if you're using a skincare product that contains chemicals or xenobiotics, so ingredients that resemble estrogen, you're lathering that everywhere. Be mindful of that. Other sources of toxins might be water, right? So make sure that you're drinking clean, filtered water. And what's another?
I was going to say,
alcohol.
Yeah. Back to the water one though too. We're always thinking of, okay, which filtered water should you drink or what type of water, but we also don't think about how is that water getting into our system from showering and from bathing. So I recommend people getting a filter that they can put on their shower head so they're not getting excess lead into the system. And that's just recently in the Halton area, it was high exposure of lead in the water system. So being aware of that, just the things where you are trying to be protective from drinking water. But
and a big story with that is I moved from being on a well system in the country to moving to the city, and moving into a new house, drinking the tap water. Guelph's tap water is supposed to be really clean. There's no fluoride in it. We did have sort of a filter, but obviously not that great, because I tested my blood levels and my heavy metals were through the roof. So my only difference that I could pinpoint was the water. And the interesting thing was how many people on my street, or how many people in Guelph who have the same water supply, also have higher levels of those heavy metals that they're not even aware of. So the same day, we had one of those door-to-door salesmen that knocks on the door, and he was installing water filters. So I was like, normally I would never say yes, and normally I would never listen to your sales pitch for allows you in my home, but it was just like coincidence. I'm like, yep. So we have a filter on the entire house that removes all of the contaminants, and it was just at the main line. But of course, you can buy the ones that go right on your shower filter. And I noticed it huge when I moved into the city. Just it smells like you were sitting in a swimming pool.
Yeah, and if you are used to having filtered water and then you go somewhere where they don't have that same type of filtration system, you taste such a difference. So I would say that's kind of like step one, looking at the water that just because we know our body is made up of 70 to 80% water, that you want to make sure the source that you're putting in your system is very clean and filtered. So good. Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up.
So water is important. The other one that individuals don't pay as much attention to is foods that can create inflammation in the body. Not for everybody, right? So not everybody, in my opinion, is sensitive to gluten, dairy, soy, eggs, nightshades, like all the foods.
Right.
But you have to figure out what types of foods work specifically for you and which ones create inflammation for you.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of, there's a company called Nutrition Genome where you can do a swab of a genetic look at what's going on. And so you can see if you have, like, so for myself personally, I am a horrible metabolizer of grains. And so a lot of people they don't break up grains very well. But then also I saw genetically, I don't break up fats very well either. So I need to, so for me to go on a really strict, like high ketogenic diet where I have tons of fats, I know that I have to support those pathways and support how my body's breaking it down. So getting
the
genetic
is so interesting too, because I have a lot of individuals who come to me individual variation. Did I cut out there?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. So looking at the genetics can give you insights into how much fats, proteins, and carbohydrates would be right for you. So the FTO gene is one that I look at heavily. So this is eloquently known as the fatso gene. So if you have this gene and you're over consuming saturated fats paired with lower protein, sometimes that can mimic a ketogenic diet, then it's not going to be the right one for you. We need to figure out what works for you based off of your physiology, as well as pairing it with where you are now, because of course you can completely override those genetics too.
Well, exactly. And I know that you love stool testing just as much as I do. And so when there's the high I never pronounce this properly. Firmicutes. I want to say Firmicutes bacteria, then of course you're going to have issues with metabolizing fat as well. So it's really cool to pair the genetic component and then seeing, okay, where are you now? Whether it's from lots of chemo that you've done or any medications that you've been on, even stress and how mentally you think of situations, how that changes the bacteria in the flora or in your microbiome as well. So all of those pieces and how your body's able to break up fats is really interesting. So yeah, so diet, where are we going with that one? Diet and inflammation.
Diet and inflammation. Inflammation can even come from gut health, like your stool. If you have higher levels or overgrowth of certain bacteria or some of those pathogens or the parasites, that can create inflammation as well.
Yeah, exactly. So like latent viruses, anything that really should not be in your gut, we need to get rid of that. So then your immune hello. So then your immune system can focus on getting rid of abnormal cells. And I think one thing that people don't realize is that we all have cancer cells. every single one of us. So there's studies where it's showing literally 1 out of 1,000 who does not have a cancer cell in their body. And that's how important our immune system is to be activated to constantly kill off or induce apoptosis in these abnormal cells. So just knowing that we're all, even if you do not have cancer, it is something 1 out of every 2 people in their lifetime will get. So the more tools that you can apply now to prevent cancer from coming or from it growing, basically.
Mm-hmm. And our DNA like is always undergoing damage, right? We're forming damage to our DNA as our cells replicate. And it's all about, can your repair process work faster without overburdening your repair process to repair that DNA?
Exactly. Exactly. The whole study of epigenetics, right? So just because you're born with that genetic predisposition doesn't mean that those genes are going to turn on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where diet is so great too, to know, okay, which foods are really high in those phytochemicals to kill off cancer cells or turn those genes off, basically. So we could go into that if you wanted, just the ones that are like high cruciferous vegetables.
Let's talk about that. And then we're going to talk about how cruciferous vegetables impact your estrogen levels.
Ooh, okay. And you know what? It's all correlated. Like I just love the fact that we're even talking right now because when it comes to weight, a lot of like the exact same things that you would apply for cancer. So even if you're not overweight, really fat metabolism and the way your body uses sugars is such a big deal to how cancer is being, how those cells are proliferating and causing
I thought
growth.
you were going to say you're so glad that we're talking because we both have our kids elsewhere and we just have quiet.
That's also a really good thing. I know. How often does that happen?
More live videos. What do you guys want to hear?
I know. Every day, 4 to 5 o'clock, we're busy. I know. COVID. It's been fun.
Yeah. All right. What foods?
Yeah.
What food should people be eating?
Okay, so you want to be having so here's the thing. I would love to hear your stance on this because a lot of the gut healing foods and the ones that are high in vitamin A and the ones that are high in anti-cancer properties tend to be more of the starchier vegetables too. So the root vegetables like squash and sweet potato,
Mm-hmm.
and even like the sugary ones like beets are high in sugar. And so in moderation, those are the ones that you would have to have in smaller quantities to introduce into your diet. So a lot of people, when it comes to weight loss, they fear having those vegetables because they think, oh, there's too much sugar in that, and I'm on a strict ketogenic diet, so I can't have fruit, I can't have the starchy vegetables, and they really are taking out a big chunk of antioxidants and high nutritious foods from their plan. So I would love to hear what you do with that, because from a cancer perspective, I don't worry so much about weight, and people don't seem to be as concerned. But for you, I know that people probably are educated on that sense of the starchy, or like carrots, for example. They don't want to have carrots, which we know are high in phytochemicals as well.
And it's not like, I'm a big fan of whole food nutrition. Eating whole foods is not often, very rarely, the reason why people are struggling with weight loss resistance. It's truly not. It's not the carrots, it's not the beets. It's those other types of foods and those hormone imbalances, as well as the poor gut health, the poor detoxification pathways that are at the root cause. So I have clients consume a serving of fruit at every single meal. During the losing phase, it's more of the low glycemic fruits. So things like, I love berries. Berries are a big one. And as well, like the beets, the squash, the sweet potatoes, the carrots, we just make them in the appropriate portion. So
Right.
we're not having the whole squash. We're not having sweet potato fries for days. It's in a specific portion, and it's paired with your protein and your other fibrous vegetables. So I'm a big fan of single ingredient foods, lots of phytochemicals, and diversity. So always try not to eat the same thing each and every day. I see stalls and plateaus all the time because it's the exact same foods every single day, and we really need to switch things up, not only for our weight management, but also to have a really good gut microbiome that's diverse. We need the diversity of foods, diversity of fibers.
Exactly. And I find too, I know in the first month of changing someone's diet, if it's too strict and they say you can't have all of those things, they're going to just fall off the wagon and say this is an impossible thing to follow, and there's no way that I can continue this for a lifetime. Especially when it comes to cancer, it's very like to put someone on a strict ketogenic diet, for example, and say under 30 grams or under 50 grams of carbs in a day. It's not realistic. And so I like to do diet variation where certain days of the week that you are following more keto style, but then you also on other days can have the ones that are more higher in sugar, right? So obviously the healthier sugar with from fruits and vegetables, but having that variation is so important. Like you said, for gut health too, it's so eliminating things from nature just doesn't make sense in any condition, really.
And that's really mimicking a carb cycling nutrition plan. So that's what essentially, I don't call it carb cycling, it's just a healthy whole foods maintenance program that we call it on the reset program. But that's exactly it. Some days you have more fats at your meals, other days you have more carbohydrates at your meals, and it's all about give or take. So if you want those higher carbohydrate foods, well, maybe you do a little bit of resistance training or HIIT training to compensate for it. Or maybe you do more a prolonged intermittent fast if you know you're having more of a heavy carbohydrate meal that day. In terms of that's like healthy living maintenance lifestyle plan. When I'm looking at clients coming to me wanting 20 to 40 pounds in 6 weeks time, that's going to be restrictive. But I only do restrictive for 6 weeks because like you said, it's not maintainable at all. And it's not meant to be maintainable. It's meant to reset the system, get the weight off quickly. Then you go into a maintenance plan that really looks different for everybody. Some people, like I would not live on a maintenance plan without chocolate. Not excessive amounts, but like for other people, they're like, I don't want chocolate, I want wine.
Yeah. Yeah. And you also, I think you do this in your program too, is look at why are you craving sugar so much? So we know with cancer, there's 3 times more insulin receptors on those cancer cells. And so those people with cancer tend to crave sugar all the time, which is why a drug that's also used for weight loss or diabetes, metformin, is used in cancer care. So being able to regulate sugar and prevent those cravings is such a big deal in insulin resistance, right? So knowing why you're craving it is not just as easy because people know, okay, if I want to lose weight, let's get rid of the carbs, let's get rid of the sugar. But if your gut is out of balance, you have insulin resistance, you're going to be wanting it, like searching cupboards and like running to the store to go get that.
And it really doesn't matter if insulin's a fat storage hormone. So if you always have high insulin, you're going to be consuming this healthy nutritious plan. And the goal should be to consume healthy, whole, nutritious foods no matter what, because that's what's good for your body. Even if it doesn't result in weight loss, you have to get rid of that mindset. I'm consuming these foods because it's good for me and I treat my body well. Now, for those who want the weight loss aspect, we have to get that insulin down. So intermittent fasting is a free tool. That's a really great way to get your insulin resistance down, as well as metformin is great. Metformin is actually one of the better drugs, in my opinion, in terms of potential.
But berberine is actually shown to have this exact same effectiveness, right? And so without the side effect of diarrhea.
Yes. Although, what is my only concern? I love berberine. I use it lots and I high dose it and it works very, very well for high fasting insulin and weight loss. It's great. But berberine has the impact of shifting the gut microbiome.
Yeah.
To a favorable way, but to a point.
Yeah, because it's antimicrobial as well. Exactly. Just like you wouldn't do what else? Oil of oregano, or like always be on a kill phase for antimicrobial plans. I don't like to use berberine long term unless there is more replacing as well. So finding out which low of the good strains in your gut and replacing that, right? And even doing all the gut foods too. But exactly, being on anything that's too antimicrobial long term can throw that off.
Yeah, and I want it to always work. So the whole idea of, we developed antibiotic resistance, I would hate to lose berberine. Everyone's going out and buying berberine, and then there's berberine resistance, and that's my one.
Yeah. I want to just actually go back to the insulin part where you said it's a fat storage hormone, and same with cancer. It's a growth hormone. And so it basically tell cells to divide faster, right? And so the higher your insulin is, the faster this what's called IGF-1, that growth factor, is going to replicate. So from a weight loss or weight management perspective, and from cancer, insulin is a huge, it's a really big hormone to look at and how to regulate that.
And maybe we should go back for those who haven't heard of, insulin resistance in the ketogenic diet. So essentially, we are lowering carbohydrates with the hope of lowering insulin, because insulin rises when you consume carbohydrates. That's why often a ketogenic diet or a lower carb diet is recommended when you have insulin resistance.
Exactly. And you can do a lab test that, like, look at your number for IGF-1 and see what for blood work, what that level is. But you can also tell yourself if you have insulin resistance by a lot of symptoms. So if you want to go into which symptoms, so people can think, okay, actually, maybe I do have that without having to do the blood work.
Yeah. The main symptoms that I see are feeling really fatigued and sluggish after meals, especially higher carbohydrate meals. Resistance weight loss is another one that I see, although resistant weight loss can be a number of things, not just insulin resistance. Feeling hangry or having really big changes in your blood glucose, so the shakiness when you're on a low, or feeling like overly stimulated when you consume carbohydrates as well. And anxiety too. So if you are not able to regulate your blood sugar and keep it really, really stable, those ups and downs in your blood sugar will cause changes to cortisol and can produce anxiety. I've even seen, anxiety to the point of panic attacks with really big swings in blood sugar.
Yeah. And so I think even with COVID too, the stress and the change, a lot of people do reach for food when they're more anxious or they're bored, or just however their schedule has changed, or just snacking more. And so you think of all those times that you're spiking insulin by every time you're putting something with sugar, even not just directly sugar, but pastas or breads or a cracker or fruit, like literally anything that can break down to sugar is spiking that insulin. So if you think like
protein too, right? Like,
yeah,
protein can as well. So
yeah,
it's not that carbs or protein are quote unquote bad. It's just where your physiology is right now. What is your health right now? What is your baseline genetics? And how can we pair them in a timed way so that we can kind of like biohack the system so you can still have them and they don't produce as much of the negative impact.
exactly. And I think what's really cool about what you do as well, as what I teach cancer patients, is how to change your metabolism and change the way that your cells are actually craving these things. So there's strategic ways that we can kind of like wean into a program like that. So it's not just like all or nothing, because you can't go from it's like a drug addict, right? Like to go from just having that drug all the time, you're going to go through major withdrawal. So there's ways to prime the system and get it a lot more, I guess, less insulin resistant and a lot more receptive to how your body deals with sugars. So then the weight just comes off. And you find that I've seen where cancer patients are stable for years once we control this. So,
and it's so true what you said. Sugar is literally the drug of choice in North America. It produces the same brain chemicals that various other drugs have as well. And the problem is we're targeting children. If you look at the cereal boxes, those eyes of those fun characters are pointing down at the children. So we're getting individuals addicted to sugar at a young age, promoting obesity. We know when you remove it, you crave it more. And then people feel like, oh, I don't have the willpower. I don't have the strength to get through it. I can't control this. And we have to recognize that companies spend billions of dollars every single year to make hyper palatable foods to get you addicted so you buy more. So it's not your fault.
yeah, and I actually see this. Sorry, mom, if you're listening to to this, but even my own mother, like, they'll think that it's a treat, and they're almost like neglecting these children if they don't give them sugary things. Like they get so excited, and if they don't get that ice cream or they don't get that snack, they feel like, oh, that's so sad. Their childhood is being deprived, right? But I even know if my children have sugar, like I don't even want, like, I will give them back to my mom. Like, it's like you take them because they are wired. I even, like, my daughter will have eczema breakouts. Like she'll have and my other daughter will get like really bloated and distended. So you see it from such a young age, and you think like, wow, you would hope that they can metabolize it at that young age, so then later, but that's not the case. Like you see those symptoms right away. So you're not doing them any favor giving them those sugars.
It's so hard because it brings them so much joy. And then, but it's like the aftermath is not, like you said, it's just they're
No.
not themselves on the sugar.
Yeah.
But they're interesting too. If you like my at least my kids and the kids I've observed, if something doesn't make them feel good, they often don't consume it. So my son, every time he has lots of breads and pastas, diarrhea. His anti-gliadin IgA marker of gluten sensitivity is high. And he's naturally just gravitated towards different foods. He's like, nah, it doesn't make me feel good. And
Oh,
he
that's so good. Yeah, because you could see it being almost the opposite as well, where it's like it gives that drug-like effect where you almost like crave those things that give you that it's almost like a neurotoxin, right?
Mhm.
So that's good. Very smart boy that you have there.
Or the dairy, if he does have dairy or ice cream, it's diarrhea right away. But he's put two and two together that
Yeah,
every time I eat the ice cream, I
I'm
have
gonna
diarrhea.
poop
I'm like,
my pants.
like,
Yeah, that's
you're too young for a digestive enzyme. I think we should probably just keep it out.
right. Yeah. No, that's good that because even too with I never really understood how to even treat kids before I had my own kids. I would think, oh yeah, just remove it or just like I would
Or
even like
here, give them this gross tasting tincture. They'll take
yes.
it.
Yes, I'm like, oh, just sneak it into a popsicle or something. Like, no, they're way too smart. So disgusting.
Well, why
But
don't you just chop up all the vegetables and puree it into the sauce? Like other people.
right. But we underestimate, yeah. Like before having kids, you don't know. I didn't know those things. Yeah, it seems so easy. Um, but no, and I think for anyone listening too, if you have any symptoms like that, where it's like, okay, I have eczema, I feel bloated all the time, I'm hungry after I eat, or sorry, I crave sugars after I eat, or I want to have a nap after I eat. Those are huge red flags. That is not normal. And if you've been living with that your whole life, a lot of people don't see like the light at the end of the tunnel. They think, oh, that's just, I'm used to being tired all the
But they
time. Or,
don't even realize.
mm-hmm.
Like so
Yeah.
many individuals, we get them on a healthy whole foods plan and they're like, wow, I was really bloated. And like I had no idea.
Yeah. It's like, oh, it's not normal to have a 2 hour nap in the afternoon. Like that's not normal. So it's really cool to see all like even though the motivation is to feel better in your clothes and to feel lighter, all the other benefits that are involved, usually see that like within the first week. I know the people that like start to change their life around within even a week, you can start seeing these changes.
Mhm. The last one too that we didn't mention is waking up at night. So individuals potentially, if their blood sugar is dipping down at night, you go too low when you're sleeping, cortisol will be raised to bring it back up, and then you wake up and you're sitting there between 2 to 4 wondering, why am
Yeah.
I awake?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, sleeping issues, even going to the bathroom at night, urinating. Yeah, it's all that's not a normal process. Like we should fall asleep between 10 and midnight and have a solid at least
Ooh,
6 to 8 hours. That would be
you let people stay
amazing.
up late.
What's that?
You let people stay up late.
What time do you go to bed?
Well, what I do or what I recommend and what I strive to do.
I want to know what you really do. What time do you go to bed at?
I aim for 10. I aim for 10. The kids right now with this whole shenanigans, they're constantly like pushing the limits of getting up out of bed because I let them away with it once. It was once I was like, yeah, you can just snuggle with me and we'll watch a show. And now it's like
Yeah, they know.
they know. So we're working on it because if they can get to bed and stay in bed, then I'm in bed by 10 and I fall asleep quick. I'm a better person
Yeah.
with sleep.
Yeah, and I find too, people like when they're not well, they don't want to stay up late. Like they are tired and they want like they're just their eyes are so heavy by even 9 o'clock. So they go to bed, but then they wake up still feeling so tired too. So yeah, going to bed, like you would have to go to bed earlier, but even for myself, I try to get to bed before 11 o'clock for sure, because I just know the morning is going to be a nightmare.
It's not a fun experience for anybody.
No. And do
No,
your kids still go into your room in the morning? Because I know mine.
Nope, we've got a system. They have their breakfast options that they are allowed or able to make them for themselves. This is a recent thing.
Amazing.
They just
Yes.
go down, they let the dog out, they feed the dog, they have their breakfast. I can hear them, right? So I'll lay there while they do all their stuff.
That's incredible. And your youngest is 4 or 5?
She'll be 5.
Actually 5. Okay, good. So I just have 4 more years to look forward to, just 4 more years to look forward to that.
Just hang in there.
No big deal.
No big deal. Oh, the other thing that I really wanted to mention while we're on here is I love looking at estrogen metabolism and how estrogen is broken down, and depending on how your estrogen is metabolized into what form. So estrogen can be metabolized into 2-OH, the good guys, 4-OH, and 16-OH. So for cancer, I'm sure you pay attention heavily to the 4-OH and 16-OH, as well as I pay attention to it too in terms of weight loss resistance, because if you have too much estrogen, the type of estrogen that stimulates growth, we're going to see increased growth of estrogen receptor tissues, such as weight gain in the lower half, the glutes, the hips, the legs. But also, I see heavy menstrual cycles because it's stimulating the uterus tissue to grow more and shed more, increase breast size. And of course, that plays a role in cancer as well.
Exactly. And so I think it's really cool that you're helping people lose weight, but you're also really helping prevent cancer as well, because we know that estrogen is a growth hormone, that it will tell cells to proliferate faster. So not only for like all the PMS symptoms for fibroids and endometrial cysts or fibroids, we'll also see that even non-hormonal cancers. So even if it's not estrogen positive breast cancer, for example, or endometrial cancer, we know like prostate cancer and colon cancer can all be stimulated by estrogen not metabolizing properly. So when we do Dutch testing, which I think you do as well, we can make sure that all of those 3 different types of estrogens are actually in the proper ratio and bumping up the 2-hydroxy, because that will be the most protective form. But I'd say every single cancer patient that I have doing that test, every single one of them is high in the 16-hydroxy. And that has to come down like that. And so even if they're in remission right now, like we have to keep supporting how estrogen is being metabolized.
And just because you have a estrogen negative breast cancer, that doesn't mean that you're at no risk of developing an estrogen positive cancer if you have issues with your estrogen and the way it's metabolized. So it's important in whether it's estrogen positive or estrogen negative, really important to look at those ratios. And that's why I really say you have to consume cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, kale, cauliflower, bok choy at every single meal, because that will help promote proper estrogen metabolizing just with dietary solutions. If it's really significant, of course, we're going to have to intervene more, right? Possibly with a supplement intervention. But definitely, I mean, there was a study that looked at those who consumed a serving of cruciferous vegetables, 1 serving a week versus 1 every day. And you're 22% less likely to die from all-cause mortality, so all cause of death, consuming 1 serving of cruciferous vegetables each day versus once a week. And I know people that don't consume any ever.
Yeah, exactly. And I find too, when you if you have a pressure cooker or something just to help break it down, because I find people are like, oh, Brussels sprouts makes me gassy and that's why I don't like them, or broccoli or cauliflower, even bok choy, they find that they don't break it down well. So if you can find different ways to cook it, so not always having it raw, like steaming it, that can help the digestive process. Your body can break it down and you can still reap all of the benefits. And actually even steaming it will help activate those phytoestrogens as well. So just the way you cook it, try different things.
I do have a number of individuals that I can think of off the top of my head who do struggle with the sulfur-based vegetables. If you look at your genetics, oftentimes I see an issue with the CBS gene, and we try to give molybdenum, and sometimes that's enough to help with the process while also supporting digestive capacity, which I found really interesting.
Yeah, no, that's good. So do you do all right, do you get people to do their genetics, everyone? Like everyone have their genetic testing
Not
done? Do you know?
everybody. But for individuals who have their 23andMe, often we look at it, genetics are really just the baseline. So they're really influenced by your diet and lifestyle. So if your genetics say that you're completely fine, you know, you don't have any of the SNPs for diabetes or blood sugar issues, and you eat sugar and McDonald's every single day, you're going to override that.
Yeah.
So genes are not everything. We often look at what is your baseline and then where are you at now. So
exactly.
it can change. The great part about running genetic testing though is your genes never change. So it's not a test that you have to keep doing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people, I feel like, just going off your symptoms and your tendencies, you almost know. I mean, not to that degree as far as which SNP is off, but a lot of people just know, like if, for example, coffee, if they have a coffee and they feel wired for 24 hours after, you likely have a genetic issue where your body's just not metabolizing it days in your system. So a lot of things like that with diet and even lifestyle, you can kind of, you can predict some of these things, right?
Yeah. And most people that it's not most people everywhere, they don't have an issue with phase 2 detoxification, but a lot of my patients do. So most individuals that come to me for resistant weight loss have an issue with phase 2 detoxification. So we always support that off the bat. They're pretty good at phase 1, but they're sluggish with phase 2. So we really heavily support phase 2. And then when we put them in maintenance, if their weight's not stable when we're putting in the maintenance plan after we've removed the detox support, I know right away. I was like, yep, you're poor phase 2. We just need to add, it's typically amino acids and like B's and magnesium to support phase 2, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. So you can tell by how quickly someone is able to lose weight or maintain their weight loss, what else you can do to add into their plan to keep it going, right?
And it's interesting, the same enzyme that Costco, I'm doing a video. It's crazy working from home. Put it out there.
So unprofessional right now. Just kidding.
That's my brand. Spelling mistakes and craziness.
Just keep it real.
Keep it real. The same enzyme that helps to metabolize like toxins also clears out your catecholamines, so your stress hormones. So often individuals who have weight loss resistance that have to do with detoxification, they also don't clear out their stress hormones fast enough. So they're sitting ruminating on thoughts. When they're stressed, they're really stressed, and then they have weight gain around the midsection.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So what do you tell people who besides from supplements that you would recommend, do you get people to meditate and to help with decreasing cortisol, and what other lifestyle things do you tell them just to help with catecholamine production?
First and foremost, in the losing phase, so the 6 weeks where we're losing weight, I scale back on exercise. HIIT training, long distance running, lots of cardio will further raise your cortisol levels. If you already have high cortisols, high stress hormones, adding another stressor on is not going to be helpful for you. And then pair that with not sleeping, and you're set up for not a great.
And you know what? People must love hearing that, because I hear all the time too, where it's like, I work out all the time, I lift all these weights, I run all these marathons, and I cannot lose weight. So that's amazing that you tell people that, because it's probably a huge relief. It's like they do all this work, they're not seeing the change, but then for you to say, okay, hold back a little bit, you're actually stressing yourself out way too much, where you're becoming weight resistance. They must love hearing that.
Either they love it or they're very nervous about it.
Oh.
Yeah. But it's not about, so if you say you're exercising an hour a day, when I say scale back on exercise, that extra hour needs to be to catch up on sleep if you're sleep deprived, or to do something for you that truly brings you joy, or to do something calming. So meditation, deep breathing, yin yoga, anything like that. It's not to further busy your schedule with more of a to-do. So, taking off exercise, and then, okay, now I have an extra hour where I can work, where I can do all these things that are further adding to my stress, is not going to be productive.
Right.
Big on exercising in the right amount at the right time for the right reasons. Looking at calming, doing things for fun. I would say be around community and be around people, although that's iffy till
through
Friday.
video calls. Yeah.
Through video calls. Yeah. Just like having that connection, being out in nature, doing things that you actually love. Like staying in the present moment. Those are all really, really important. We actually also just did a video in the Reset program with tapping. So, tapping out your core disease, right? Like bringing you into the present moment, just forcing yourself to slow down makes a huge, huge impact.
Yeah, and I love that advice too. Also, with cancer, when cortisol is too high, then that's also going to cause cells to proliferate faster as well, right? So I find with cancer, it's very difficult to say like, oh, just don't stress about that upcoming imaging report or the next blood work that you have, because they want to know, like, is the current treatment plan that I'm doing, is it working or not? So there's a lot of anxiety and high cortisol with that whole situation. And so even things exactly like acupuncture will help bring down cortisol, help your nervous system and parasympathetic system just relax, right? But going out in nature, doing things just almost like distract, because I can see how it can be so consuming where you're just always worried about what's the next thing and what's the next thing. So kind of like removing yourself from that situation as best as possible.
And I mean, the one thing too is electronics get a bad rap. So, right, like social media gets a bad rap, TV gets a bad rap. But if you're using it in a way that just like allows you to just focus in on the present moment, that's your time and you can calm, then I actually don't mind it. I don't want individuals scrolling on social media, comparing themselves to other people. If it's bringing anxiety, that's not the point. But if you're just like so overwhelmed and you just need like some reality TV so I can stop thinking about everything.
I think exactly. Laughter is just such great medicine, right? If you can find something that's on TV that's entertaining, or you have friends that just really lift you up, like that is so powerful, right? Besides getting into your own negative thoughts and wrapped up in that.
Yeah, I get so much joy out of reality TV.
I know it's so embarrassing, but so do I. It's better,
but
I think it's better to watch that than have that in your, like, I used to invite that in my own life, like have associate myself with just a lot of drama. So now I'm like, I like myself. I like being in a more peaceful relationship. I like the peace that comes to that. So I don't need that in my own life. Thank you to reality TV. I can just watch it now, right?
So what was your past life reality show in real life?
So I would just love like boyfriends were just not like ones that my mom was like terrified over, like please don't stay with that person. But it was more fun, like it was just fun, like fun relationships, right? Whereas just like it's probably not the best thing to be in, but
interesting,
you do what you do, right? You that's how you learn.
Yeah,
what's that?
Totally, live and learn.
And I don't think I would even appreciate Marco right now. Like I wouldn't if I didn't go through everything that I've gone through, right? So you kind of have to live those experiences to say, okay, these are the things that I don't want. And then now I'm really grateful for what I have, right?
Yeah, the gratitude and the perspective is huge. And I think it's often underappreciated. Like we include where I have like the 5-minute journal. This guy, the 5-minute journal.
Yeah.
Just be in the present moment and just 3 things that you're grateful for. What is your intention for that day? It really, like when you're truly appreciative and grateful for something, it's really hard to be in that negative mindset as well.
And you know what's really cool about that? I love that you get people to do it, because I just read a study where journaling 3 times a week. So for 15 minutes, almost like setting your timer for just writing whatever you want to write about. It can increase natural killer cell production and it boosts lymphocyte production. So from a cancer perspective, but even from fighting any bacteria or virus that may come your way, just the powerful effects of writing on your immune system, and even for anxiety, right? So it just kind of like gets those thoughts out there. So it's not ruminating in your system. So that's great that you combine that with your like
it's everything, right? It's not just diet and exercise. That's just a small piece of it. You have to look at your environment and your detox pathways and your hormones and your mindset. The mind is so powerful, and I think people don't appreciate the power of their mind enough. I always share that video of the plants. Have you seen the IKEA commercial where the kids talk positive to one plant and it grows, and then they bully the other plant and it dies?
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, a Kia's commercial. It's
Amazing.
a huge representation of like if you can speak negatively to a plant and it dies,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts and how is that influencing your
Well,
physiology?
right. And I think of too, like sometimes if I get into like a negative thought pattern or I have anxieties or anything, I think about how my 6-year-old would feel if I told her those things that like about her, just say like, oh, you're not fast enough or you're not this, you're not that. It's like, how damaging is that? And then we don't even realize that's what we're doing to ourselves. So catching that and like spinning it around and learning how to let go of that is so important.
And that became apparent too with kids. Like they pick up on everything. So even though you think like they can't hear the thoughts that you're telling yourself, they're watching through your behaviors and your actions. And even if they're, over here playing with their toy, you like they're listening.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
you
yeah. Oh,
let
I know.
one swear word slip and they're like, ah.
Oh, and they love it. Yeah. It's their favorite word. Whoops. Yeah, exactly. No, they're little sponges. Okay. Well,
So
let's
I
wrap it
think
up. I had a lot of fun.
the last one I want to talk about is, can I just talk quickly about saunas?
No. Yeah.
So I love saunas, getting that body temperature up. And I really like the contrast of the hot and cold, hot and cold. Simple way to get the blood flowing, the lymph flowing is to do alternating contrast showers. So really hot, cold, really hot, cold, really hot, cold.
Yeah. I would
I
say,
love sauna.
I was gonna say, I'd say I'm almost OCD about my cold showers now. I absolutely love them. And I find such a big difference with my energy and even just like how light I feel after having a cold shower, as painful as much as I really don't like it at the time. Yeah, I just can't imagine having a shower without ending it in cold now. It's powerful for your lymph and getting your immune system up.
And you just do it at just the end cold, or do you do hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold?
So I've been feeling really ambitious. I'll do both hot, cold, because there is a lot of power to that contrast, especially like if you're dealing with cellulite or any kind of lymphatic issue. Yeah, but I definitely always end on cold, and then maybe like twice a week I'll do hot, cold, hot, cold.
Mhm.
Do you? Do you do that every day?
I don't shower my hair every day. I bathe, but my hair does not get showered.
Oh, so you're talking about like full, like doing everything.
Yeah, but in a bath, it's if I shower, then I'll do the hot, cold, ending on cold.
So even if you have a bath, for anyone that has baths, just like it kind of ruins the whole mood, but jump into the shower after and just like from neck down if you're worried about your hair.
Yeah, I guess you could do it that way too.
Or
So
get like the
I'm like effort. That seems like a lot of effort and a slip hazard.
So maybe just like put your body under the tap and
I'll send you a photo of me on the ground after slipping something from my.
I'm like, I didn't tell you to do that.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, but sweating, exactly. And the sauna is such a great way. It's easy, right? Versus doing long distance running or like getting like it's then working out. So just sitting there sweating and getting rid of those heavy metals. I know that you have the ozone sauna as well. So at the beginning when I was doing them, I've probably done at least 30 by now. The first one that I did, I had like, actually, no, it took about the third or fourth. I had like major black streaks coming out, just like tons of metals, which I can probably thank my mom for passing down to me. But now after the 30th, I don't have any, like there's nothing that's coming out, which is really cool. So it's really supporting how my body's eliminating toxicity.
And if you don't have access to a sauna, you can't go to the gym, you don't have a sauna at home, it's pretty hot out. It's the act of like sweating.
Yeah.
So if you can't do the exercise to break a sweat, go outside, sweat outside. The other thing you can do is if you get a bath hot enough and you sit in the bath until the point of like starting to get uncomfortable and sweating that way, that's another way to get your body temperature up.
Yeah, exactly. That's such a great way because we do forget that it's our largest detox organ, right? And so to optimize that pathway is so important.
Yeah.
And then replacing with electrolytes, right? So coconut water, even just like sea salt, something that's just getting minerals back in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or an electrolyte powder. I love my electrolyte powder.
Yeah, your
I tried to
center
get
is
you
it
on that one last year.
what's that?
I tried to get you on the Designs for Health electrolyte powder last year.
We use that. Yeah, I know. I think Jordan sent us like 20 boxes of them. He's like, you're going to use them.
Well, you're going to use them at least for the next week.
Yeah, no, we actually do use those now.
They're good. I love them.
No, they taste delicious. They're really good.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for joining. If there's any questions, I can't see them right now because we're on Zoom, but I'll stick around. Post your questions in the comments below, or I'll answer them after the video. And then we'll also upload this to YouTube, not YouTube. What did we try? We're losing.
I'm going to post this on my Instagram. So we'll have this whole conversation there, and then also on Facebook as well, since our live.
And where do we get your book? And where can people get in contact with you?
Okay, so you can get my ebook right now on Amazon, Live Longer and Stronger with Breast Cancer. But the hard copy will be out at the end of this month. So if you want a free copy, I want you to message me and I'll make sure to send you a free copy in the mail.
Ooh.
So let me know.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Doing that. I've had my e-copy, but I'm a hard book person.
Yeah, and then you can highlight. And because it is about breast cancer, a lot of people think, oh, because I don't have breast cancer, maybe it wouldn't apply to me, but it's really the foundational things of everything that we talked about when it comes to detoxing, sugar regulation, all the recipes, all the things that everyone should apply, whether they want to prevent cancer or if they have it or not. So even if you have a friend or someone that you want to give it to, make sure you message me because I will send you a copy.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for joining on this Wednesday at 5 o'clock. And
yes,
we'll talk soon. Thank you so much.
Okay, have a good evening.